Hey, what's going on, guys? J-Mac here. So, the other pet build that I told you guys about in my previous video, I want to go ahead and make a video on that. Now, the lag with this build on the PTR has been absolutely insane. I wanted to do like a 45 plus greater with the build because I know it can do it, but honestly, it's just with the lag, it's almost impossible. Pet builds in general have actually been pretty decent the last few days, but for some reason, any builds that have Gargantuan in them seem to be even laggier than the other builds. So we're just gonna do some bounties, I guess, in T6 just to show the build off real quick, and then hopefully at a later date when maybe some of the lag has subsided, I can do some higher greater rift stuff with this setup. So this build playstyle wise is extremely similar to Ticklandian Sacrifice. You're going to be really playing about the same way, but we're going to switch some things up. So we're going to drop the focus and restraint combination and go for a different ring setup. So we're going to run the Little Man's Finger. Gargantuan instead summons 3 smaller Gargantuans, each more powerful than before. And with that, we're going to run the Gargantuan Wrathful Protector rune. And these things hit like a truck, man. I think this is probably the best rune overall. But this is a cooldown, opposed to the other Gargantuan runes where they will stay out until they die. This only stays out for 15 seconds, so you do have to stack some CDR to make this work. So before I was running this in kind of a max cooldown reduction build with an Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac to make sure Gargantuan is always out, I decided to take it in another route and go with the Broken Promises Ring. After 5 consecutive non-critical hits, your chance to critically hit is increased to 100% for 3 seconds. So, at first, I didn't really figure pets would proc this, but they actually do. Now, I don't know if that's intended or if it's a bug. I'm assuming we'll find out relatively soon. But currently, pets are proccing it, meaning that we have close to 100% uptime on it. The other thing, too, is Haunt never crits, so you're also haunting constantly as well. So it's pretty crazy overall, and basically what this allows you to do is drop all crit chance. So you have base 5% crit chance, and then I dropped all the crit chance on my gear, and that allows me to get things like, physical int crit damage in a socket on my amulet, or go, on the taskers, instead of getting 10 crit, you can go cooldown reduction. Same thing with the rings. Just drop all the crit chance everywhere, get cooldown reduction instead, or average damage, or attack speed, or physical damage, all that good stuff. So that's what we're doing. And overall, man, it's been working out really, really well. We've got something like 450% crit damage. Now, obviously, the more crit damage you have, you're just going to be doing way more damage because you have 100% crit chance pretty much all the time for your pets. So it's pretty nuts overall. I like it quite a bit. I think it can actually push up pretty high, and it's definitely a cool variation on how to build your character. Alright, let's take a look at the abilities. So again, we're going to run Haunt, Poison Spirit, and just like the last video, with the Cloth of Transcendence Pants, which every time you hit an enemy with a mana spender, you're going to summon a Fetish Sycophant. This is just a really cost-efficient mana spender, and also haunted enemies take 20% more damage from all sources. So you're going to be summoning fetishes very quickly from the pants, and you're going to be buffing your damage at the same time. Just really, really good. Gargantuan Wrathful Protector. This is going to replace the Sacrifice, and with a Little Man's Finger, and gives us a ton of AoE damage. And they actually seem to maybe put in a change that they didn't really document. It seems like the Gargantuans are now attacking over your line of fetishes. So you have your line of fetishes attacking something, and the Gargantuans will actually reach over them and hit enemies, it seems. So they don't always do it, but I've seen it quite a bit, and honestly seems like a pretty big buff to the ability in general as far as how much actual damage it's doing in game. So we got Big Bad Voodoo Slam Dance. We're going to run a Star Metal Kukri, so we've got 100% uptime on this pretty much, and it's going to buff our pets quite a bit. Spirit Walk Jaunt for movement speed and getting out of bad situations. Horrify, Face of Death, 24-yard radius with the Ticklandian Visage. Again, the idea, just like a Ticklandian Sacrifice setup, is to permanently horrify everything if you can. We're going to do some T6, so it doesn't really matter all that much, but when you're doing high greater rifts, you need to make sure things are horrified at all times, really. Fetish Army Legion of Daggers, 8 dagger-wielding fetishes, and again, we can resummon them at will with the Star Metal Kukri. Now, I am running physical at the moment, and I like it that way. you know, it's going to buff your Fetish Sycophants, it'll buff this Fetish Army, and it's also buffing the dot from Pain Enhancer. But if you wanted to, you could switch the physical damage on your Bracers and Amulet and go Fire, and then switch this to the Fire Tiki Tortures rune to buff your Gargantuan Wrathful Protector even more, and this rune. Now obviously it's not going to be buffing the Fetish Sycophants from the pants, but there's going to be, something's going to be left out no matter how you do it. You're either doing it this way and you're not getting extra fire damage for your Gargantuan, or you can go the fire route, but then you're not going to buff the Fetish Sycophants because they're physical. So it's one or the other. I think I like the physical setup a little bit better, mainly because of the Pain Enhancer, which is doing a ton of damage in this setup. Pierce the Veil for more damage, Midnight Feast to buff the damage of the Gargantuan, Spirit Vessel, you know, again, just think of this as like a higher Greater Rift build. I know we're going to be doing T6, but in higher Greater Rifts, you got to run Spirit Vessel. If you really are just running T6, you could switch to like Fierce Loyalty for more movement speed, is what I'd probably do. And then Grave Injustice for the cooldown reduction, and we get a little life and mana back when we kill something. Alright, let's take a look at the gear. So again, just keep in mind that we're dropping all crit chance off of the gear. So we get the Ticklandian Visage, kind of the benchmark of the build. You want an 8-second one if you can get it. If you have a 6 or 7 second Ticklandian, just make sure you have enough CDR to have permanent Horrify on the enemies. And honestly, if you're building like I am, we're stacking a lot of CDR anyways for the Wrathful Protector, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. Now, unfortunately, this is the only 8-second one I have, and I've been running it in sacrifice builds, so the sacrifice damage on there is unfortunate. You would probably just roll that to like life percentage or armor or something like that. We're running 3-piece Augilds. Now, I am going Gargantuan damage on my shoulders and my chest. But you can also go Fetish Army damage if you want to. The Fetish Army damage, honestly, is a little bit more reliable at the moment until you get to a really high CDR value and your Gargantuan is out, you know, 80 to 100% of the time. Fetish Army's out all the time. But with that said, I still wanted to stack some Gargantuan damage and just give it a try. Ideally, you would have Intelligence, Vitality, cooldown reduction, and Gargantuan damage or Fetish Army damage here. Again, with the chest piece, Gargantuan or Fetish Army, either one is fine. As far as the Augilds, we're going physical. I rolled the crit chance off of here. Went life per second for now. I mean, you can go whatever defensive stats are available to you. Go ahead and go for that. Alright, so our amulet, we've got physical damage, intelligence, crit damage, and a socket. Again, staying away from the crit chance as much as possible. We've got Tasker and Theos, Ancient, attack speed, crit damage, and cooldown reduction instead of 10 crit. We got the Witching Hour here. Now you could go Vigilante Belt for more cooldown reduction if you really wanted to. It's probably the second best option, but I think you'd be losing a little bit too much damage. The Cloth of Transcendence Pants. Again, this is how we get our Fetish Sycophants out without running the passive. We got the Broken Promises Ring. Ideally, this would have crit damage over average damage, but also, you know, no crit chance, cooldown reduction instead, and then no crit chance here as well. Crit damage, cooldown reduction on the little man's finger. We got the Illusory Boots, really important to any Ticklandian Visage build. Being able to move freely through the mobs is extremely, extremely important. We've got a Homunculus. Now, this could really probably be any Mojo. You just want to make sure it's Ancient, and it has cooldown reduction, and then ideally what you want is either Fetish Army damage or Gargantuan damage, which I don't have at the moment. But there's no Mojo that is necessary to the build. I think maybe like a Shukrani's Triumph for more movement speed between packs would probably be good. Maybe a Thing of the Deep for more pickup radius, something along those lines. And then we got the Star Metal Kukri. Again, for not being ancient, it's a pretty good one, but if you can get an ancient one, that's going to boost you a few Greater Rift levels on its own. As far as legendary gems go, we got the Bane of the Trapped. This will be procced all the time from Horrify, and then the Slow from Haunt as well. Pain Enhancer, this thing's actually doing a ridiculous amount of damage in this build, which you'll see here in just a minute when we do some bounties. And I said in my last video in the Ticklandian Sacrifice setup that I think I could drop this for a Taeguk at some point in time, but in this build, I don't think it's possible. It's just doing way too much damage. And then you got the Enforcer Gem. Pet damage, your pets take less damage. In Greater Rifts, it's really important. In T6, you could probably replace it with something else. Another gem option would be the Gogok of Swiftness, as long as it's ranked up to 25, gaining 1% cooldown reduction per stack, and then stacking up to 15 times. The attack speed will give you a little bit of a damage buff to your pets as well, but the key there is the cooldown reduction. Since we're trying to get Gargantuan to a 100% uptime, we are trying to stack CDR. As far as Paragon goes, get as much movement speed as you need, then go intelligence. Offense-wise, stay away from crit chance. Crit damage is going to be the most important, and then cooldown reduction, and then attack speed. Defense-wise, armor percentage, life percentage, then all res, then life regen. And then in utility, none of this really matters too much. Your pets can't proc area damage or life on hit, and you don't really need resource cost reduction. So if you're low on gold and you're doing T6, then go gold find, I guess. Doesn't really matter too much there. Alright, so we'll just jump in and do a couple bounties real quick to show some gameplay. Again, I apologize that we can't do any greater rifts. I tried to record some video of it, and the lag was so bad, it would have been terrible footage. So you guys wouldn't have got much out of it. So you saw my crit chance was at 5%, and then just with the pets attacking, it bumps up to 100%. And, you know, there's maybe a tiny little lull after the 3 seconds is up from the Broken Promises where the fetishes need to go attack something 5 times to get the crit chance back, but it's very, very small. You have that crit chance at 100% the majority of the time. You can see right here too that these Gargantuans actually attack over your fetish line, opposed to walking around them to attack something, which is, I believe, is how they work on live currently. I haven't jumped back over there to test just yet, but I think that's what it was doing before. I haven't ran Gargantuan in a while, but either way, you know, that AI change for the Gargantuans is extremely good. You know, whenever they're walking around not attacking something, you're obviously losing a lot of damage. So I think the AI for the Gargantuans has honestly gotten better just about every patch for quite some time. So they used to be much derpier than they are now. So anyways, guys, we'll do one more bounty and just to show a little bit more gameplay. And you guys can see the power of the build. I mean, I know it's just T6, it's a piece of cake, but you can kind of see the damage potential there. I think with an ancient SMK, you could push up pretty high, and the Gargantuans give you a decent amount of AoE clear too, which is something that physical pets in general has been lacking for a long time. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.